Folks, it's time to have a real conversation about Taylor Swift and race. And if you're scared about this, please know, so am I. Let's get into it. Now, to have this conversation, I am actually going to be referring to a brilliant piece written in a student newspaper from Bradley University. Most critiques of Taylor Swift, in my opinion, are pretty lame because a lot of them come from people who really dislike her music, really dislike how many awards she's won, really dislike her particular brand of feminism. And that biases them in a way that I think makes their critiques feel unfair and invalid. I did not find that with this particular critique, and I think it's worth engaging in a lot of the issues that are raised in this critique. So the article is titled A Conscious Critique of Taylor Swift's Success, and it's by Rodrigo Trujillo. I apologize if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. Now, before I dig in, let me just say the whole reason why I'm having this conversation is because I am obviously a Black woman and now a Swiftie. I've been chronicling my journey to becoming a Swiftie over on TikTok. You should follow me there. I am _KJ Miller. I've been chronicling that journey and I have made so many new friends in the Swifterhood. I have loved learning so much about her music. I've fallen in love the way I think so many Swifties do. I am also a Black woman. I move through the world in a particular way as a Black woman. The world perceives me a certain way because I'm a Black woman. All of that is true. And so even the way that I am able to engage with her music is going to be different because of my identity. I think our identities all dictate the way we engage with different parts of the world. So that said, it's something I've been thinking about, but haven't necessarily been spending a lot of time talking about because I've been in my happy Taylor bubble, and race is such a hot button topic. It's usually one that I have no problem speaking about, but I have been a bit timid to speak about it at all as it relates to Taylor Swift because I think there are people who feel like there's no reason to bring it up. There's no reason to talk about that. Taylor is for everyone. And listen, I believe Taylor's music is for everyone. I also believe the way she moves through the world and is able to move through the world and the way that the world perceives her is guided by her identity. So we're jumping in with this quote. Despite her objective commercial success, many have questioned if Swift is more deserving of recognition than others, specifically artists who are part of marginalized groups. For years, Swift has been unnecessarily pitted against prominent Black artists, sparking debates over which artist displays the most talent or success. Swift's fan base, known as Swifties, have compared albums like 1989 to cultural masterpieces like Kendrick Lamar's To Pimp a Butterfly. So I'm going to pause right there and say I have listened to 1989. I have not listened to Pimp a Butterfly because I'm not that big into rap. I acknowledge that according to pretty much everyone who's ever listened to it and engaged with that album in a real way, it is a cultural masterpiece. I think it is probably a little unfair to not give that same moniker to an album like 1989, or at least not to acknowledge this is my opinion, right? Because I do think there are a lot of people who would call 1989 a masterpiece. Am I one of those people? No, I actually think Reputation was a better pop album than 1989, is my personal opinion. But do I think there's a little bit of bias there? Sure. But I'll give it to him because I think the broader point that he's making here, he links there to a TikTok of someone saying 1989 is way better than To Pimp a Butterfly, which I don't even know why we would say something like that. Like, obviously, tastes are subjective. Preference is subjective. If you enjoyed 1989 way more, that does not objectively make it way better. And I think when people say things like that, and when Swifties say things like that, it can be really angering and really triggering because it feels not just like you're stating your opinion as fact, which I think can be frustrating for anyone, but it does feel like a really pointed devaluing of Black art. Because why is 1989 necessarily better than To Pimp a Butterfly? Or to use an example of an artist whose work I listen to religiously, if you say Taylor Swift is objectively better than Beyonce, why? Why is her music more worth listening to, right? It feels like you're devaluing Black art when, in fact, what's really happening is you have a preference, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with preferring one artist's music over another. But I think what the author is pointing out in this particular paragraph is there is a tendency among some Swifties, certainly not all, to not just state their preference, but to try to make the case that Taylor Swift is objectively better. Her music is objectively better than a lot of other artists. And when those other artists that are named are people of color, it feels like a real devaluing of that art. Now, a little further down in the article is where we really get to the crux of it. The author writes, Swift is unquestionably talented, but her fan base often overlooks how her whiteness catapults her success. For example, often regarded as iconoclastic to the feminist movement, Swift was recognized as Billboard's Woman of the Decade following the singer's active censure of misogyny. Yet, Black female artists like Janet Jackson, Lauryn Hill, and Little Sims have vocalized contempt against the music industry's misogynoir for years. And this right here gets to a point that I think is so important. And actually, again, relates back to one of my other favorite artists, Beyonce. I made a video about Beyonce and Taylor the other day on TikTok, and not comparing them, but saying how they are different to me and how their approaches are different to me. And by the way, I love both of their approaches. But in my mind, Beyonce's approach is much more outside in, where she's really taking a community view of the world and kind of drawing us into that community, and in so doing is able to make it feel more personal. The thing is, her community is Black people, and more specifically, Black women. And so what I think happens is a lot of people feel as though they can't see themselves in that. And I think that's so unfortunate, because when I listen to Taylor, Taylor's a white woman thinking about her white woman experiences. But when I listen to her songs, I'm able to feel community in that. I'm able to feel community when she sings about heartbreak, when she sings about betrayal, when she talks about grief, when she talks about falling in love. All of those things feel universal to me. I don't feel as though I have to filter them through some white woman lens. And yet, when Beyonce sings about heartbreak, being cheated on, being a mother, I do think that there are people who feel like this is an experience filtered through Blackness. So I can relate, but only so much. And I do believe that that is reflected in the number of awards that they've won, the number of streams that they have. I think both of these women are so unbelievably talented. But I believe that Taylor Swift's whiteness does allow her to feel more accessible than a lot of people find Blackness. The writer continues this idea when he writes, after speaking out about her sexual assault, Swift was named the 2017 Person of the Year by a Time magazine's issue called Silence Breakers. Yet in that same year, Tarana Burke, a Black female activist who pioneered the Me Too movement, was excluded from the magazine's cover. From artists to activists, it's clear, whiteness is preferable in the conversation of advocacy. Now, at this point, I think the question has to be, what's the point I'm making here, right? Like, what's the takeaway? Am I trying to say that Taylor doesn't deserve the accolades that she has, shouldn't have as much of the attention, the awards, the magazine covers, what have you? Not at all. Not at all. I would never want to take away anything from anyone, much less a woman I love. And I love that woman, okay? I am simply asking that as people who engage with her art and who engage with art more broadly, we be willing to have these conversations and to acknowledge where one artist is going to be able to move more easily through the world and what that might mean. It doesn't take anything away from someone to acknowledge the privilege that they have moving through the world, just like it doesn't take anything away from someone to acknowledge that others might not have those same privileges. And ultimately, I personally can sleep just fine at night being a Taylor Swift fan because I know that she is aware of her incredible privilege. I know that she has done the work to make things better for other artists, including when she spoke up against Spotify, including speaking out and testifying against sexual harassment and assault, including encouraging her fans to vote and spawning more voter registrations than any other artist. This woman is not just walking the walk, she's talking the talk. And so while there is real privilege there, there's also real work there. And of course, real talent there. I just want to start this conversation because it's one that I've been a little bit scared to have, but that I think only helps us progress as we think about artists and artistry in a bigger way. But I want to know what you guys think. Let me know, drop a comment, and if you love this sort of content, be sure to subscribe. I'll see you next time.